Okay. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, thank you for joining me and being a part of this this journey. So what I'm gonna do is fire up my slides and we'll get started. This here. There we go. Okay. Micro interactions, part one. So this is part one of a two-part series with my TA deliverable 401. And we'll do another 40-minute session on Friday. And we'll build on some of the conversations that we have today. So I'm just going to start my clock just so I can keep track of how we're moving. So the agenda of today, I'm going to go through a little bit of housekeeping, identify some of the goals and outcomes of the day. We'll go through some micro interaction components or elements of micro interactions. Hope everyone has some paper, just some A4, just a couple sheets and some pens, paper to start sketching down some crazy eights. I'll go through a little bit of a Figma tutorial to start brainstorming those crazy 8 ideas. And we'll do a sharing little exercise and a wrap up. So for today, a little bit of safety housekeeping. In the digital world, sitting behind a desk, I want to make sure that you guys are comfortable. Please keep your cameras on, and if you can mute just during our discussion or the slide discussions. This is for educational purposes. This video or this is being recorded and isn't to be distributed. We're going to go through 40 minutes. And whenever you need a break, if you need a break during this, that's fine. Go for it. Turn your cameras off, and that's fine. Any further questions and things to follow up on, you're welcome to put in the Slack channel or the group, the Zoom chat. Just a reminder of the feedback form, that the Word document that I provided in the email previously. So without further ado, today's goal. So today is an introduction of some of the basic components of micro interaction within UX and UI. And then I'd like to begin by starting by doing and creating some small micro interactions within Figma. And we'll talk a little bit about some strategies and things that overlapped with our previous conversations on animation. So I'll start with this question here. What are micro interactions? When we think of them, what do they involve? What's your interpretation of them?
Little bits of like graphical design which sort of prompts emotion.
Motion. Yeah, emotion's a great one, right? So it has personality. And so the example here of Facebook's emotion that you can connect to a post. So a little bit of emotion, a little bit of animation, a little bit of delight. What else is involved, do you think, in interactions, micro interactions? Do they help engage the experience and the user, right? So it helps you engage and tells you a little bit of where you are within a system. So that element of, oh, I got something wrong here. I've submitted something, but it didn't quite upload, or My form has been submitted and it's good to go. So micro interactions are really important for conveying a system status, meaning, yes, it's been downloaded. Yes, we've got your correct email, or no, your password is incorrect. It's a key piece to letting the user know what's happening. So they help support those, and in doing that, they help support the error prevention. And so that could be just the haptic feedback of the jitter to go, no, password's incorrect, try again. They also communicate the brand. It helps communicate the personality of the brand. So you can see the differences in micro interactions, and we'll get into this a little bit later, of timing. Timing is really important. So when something is triggered and something is subtle and moves slightly and just fades in, it has a very different emotion connected to something that's really jittery and jumping. It has a different brand personality. So it communicates to your brand, and that's a large part of what we'll touch on today. So think of micro interactions as the secret sauce. I like to use it as the secret sauce to UX and UI because it adds that element of delight. It adds to websites and applications, and it's initiated by a trigger, right? A single purpose. So some of those digital elements, and there are many, but a scroll bar is a micro interaction. A digital alarm, an icon that just shakes and has a sound to it, right? So it's multisensory. It's of course a button that rolls over, a button that's pressed, a button that just jumps and tells us more information. So within just doing button design, there's a lot of information, there are a lot of considerations. Pull to refresh animation and swiping animation, email notification. So the list goes on, but we can think of many call to actions when we click on something and swipe. They tell us a little bit about what's happening there and then, and things that are happening in the future. So let's break down some of the components. So these are 4 key components that are useful to understand the stages as we design and build those micro interactions. So first, the trigger, right? So what is triggering it, right? Is it human? Is it system? The rules that govern, and we'll go through each of these, the rules that govern that trigger, the feedback, and the loops and the modes. So let's first talk about the trigger. And so the trigger is that moment in the micro when it begins, right? So this is often initiated by the user. So this is when you click a button, the icon pops up, you fill out a form, and this is a manual trigger, right? So you click that button, it activates and triggers the animation. The other type of trigger is a system trigger. And so this is an example of, you can go into your Google or Gmail, and the system trigger sets up a particular condition or a set of rules that the user might want to see. It's sort of like an automated trigger. So, when you go into your Google Mail and you go into your spam, it will look at your messages and go, oh, this is a possible phishing email, and it'll give you that little hook, right? So it tells you, and it'll change, instead of showing your profile image, it has this little hook element. So this is a system trigger. It's automated by the system, but most triggers are manual triggers, the ones that we work with. So let's talk about rules. And rules are the operational instruction that allows a system to function. So these are governed by physics, right? These are governed by the convention of the object. And so for the example here in the mailbox, you would follow convention of the flag go up and down, right? On the mailbox, like that simple set of rules. So the upright position means there's something there. The mail carrier needs to pick something up, and down, nothing's needed, right? So we can go back to our animation conversations about what can happen within the rules of this mailbox too, is that maybe the stem exaggerates up, the lid can flop back and forth and open, the flag can go up and down, and maybe the flag, jitters. So we set up a set of rules. So we say, okay, what's the trigger on press of this mailbox? And then we say, okay, what are the rules that govern this particular mailbox? And again, it goes back to those conventions of what it can do. And within buttons, rules around buttons are just, there aren't as many, because you can put so much inside. And again, we want to keep things simple in the same sense, but we need to consider the rules that govern that. So here's feedback is the secret sauce. Feedback is the magic. Feedback is the animation, right? It's telling us now, again, knowing what the rules are and then pushing those. And there are 3 major types of feedback. And what would those be? What are the main 3? What do you think?
Visual, touch, and sound.
Yeah, visual, sound, and what was the other one you said?
Haptic.
Yeah, beautiful. Those 3 right there. You can do all 3 together. It can just be one. So here it's just the visual is often the go-to, right? It's the most dominant because we have a tendency to look at something that moves again. And yeah, the feedback is the whoosh of the text in the sound, right? It's the haptic vibration of the phone when you don't get your login or email passwords incorrect. So those 3 sets of feedbacks tell us a little bit of, is it working? Has it, yeah, those are the examples of whether we're lost or not. And so, and the 4th component is the loops and the modes. So this sort of defines how long that animation goes for. And it tells us when it's done, where does it go back to, right? So it's on state and it's off state. So the example here of typing in your password or your credit card information, it then goes back to its original state. So think of the simplest one is when you click on a button, what happens? And then when I click on that button again, the opening close. So the menu, hamburger menu to the close, and then back again. So you think of when you start the animation, where it goes to, and then how it loops back to the very start. So those are the 4 main components that we need to think of in those micro interactions: the trigger, the rules, the feedback, and the loops and modes. Now, in saying and showing you all these pretty animations, Mies van der Rohe, really great designer. Less is more, right? Don't animate for animate's sake. It's really important to start simple, and that's what we'll do today. Is we don't want to make micro interactions huge and big and really loud. They should just be subtle in a sense. They add that brand personality, but they don't take over. So going back to a little bit of the conversation around the choreography, the balance between motion and user experience, we need to look at some of those other conversations that we had in the past around timing, around exaggeration, going back to the 12 principles of animation. And I'm going to show you 2 examples right here. So if if we were going to pick the Lego brand and the animation that matched it, which one would it be, the left or the right? Which one? Okay, think of Lego as it's a toy company. It's not just a toy company, but which one would you design, and which one would be more appropriate for the Lego brand?
The right one.
And why is that?
The left one makes me think of like Valentine's or something like that, and then the right one looks like it's playtime.
So playtime through its color, its exaggeration, so its scale, it's going from really small to big and making that pop, sort of visual popping sound. So it's got a few more elements based on those 12 principles of animation that we talked about, but it also has just this really fun, playful feel to it. And this is where we're going to start our bit of a crazy eights, is that we're going to dive into micro interaction sketching and how to tailor Chanel and Lego's micro interaction briefs. So we're going to do 8 minutes per brand. Now, Chanel is more of a luxury brand. It's can be placed a little bit under the lover archetype. It is subtle but chic. And on the polar opposites, we have Lego. They are the creative archetype. They are fun, they're playful. So we have two different brands, and we're going to have to design micro interactions for them differently. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to put the clock. We're going to do Chanel first. I want you to just divide your sheet up into 8 sections. And we are going to design the like feature, meaning the heart. We're dealing with something so simple as just a heart icon. And I'd like you to, just using the heart shape, start to think about where it starts and where it ends, and create a little bit of a storyboard of how that happens. So, or just start to create some ideas of how you'd animate that heart. So we're talking a little bit of, we're storyboarding this, we're sketching it out, but these are 8 ideas, quick 8 ideas, and I'll start the clock. We'll start it now, go. Yeah, Situ.
So just a bit of context, is the like feature like social media, or is it saved to favorites? Like, what's the context of the like?
Yeah, let's say this is the favorites. So within Chanel's e-commerce, you are liking this to save it in its cart, like for future reference. Yeah, no, good question. Good question. That's not social media. Let's think e-commerce. Yeah, so I'm just going through the chat. Yeah, Disco, you know, you're right on that point of less is more. So within Chanel, being more of a higher end brand, think of some of the simple things that you've seen possibly in the past of fades, reveals, just little things that can make and put together this interaction.
And when you draw the sketch the micro interactions, like do you just draw a couple of key frames? Is that sort of how you guys do it?
Yeah, it's storyboarding, right? You sort of have the on state, you know, just the heart as it would appear without being clicked. And then think of the end state. So when it is clicked, and then we're doing a storyboard in between. We're sort of like sketching out. You can sketch out if you have time, or it could be just a word. You know, it could be fade, jump, and it's abstract, right? So there's no rules to Crazy Eights. You're putting your ideas down. You're sort of gathering your ideas of what that could be, what that could look like. But you're starting to work towards a bit of a storyboard. Yeah.
Are you doing it too? Or have you done this already?
Me, I've done this already. I've done a couple of these. Just like, yeah. Oh. So another 3 minutes. And what we'll have to do is I'll have to log out of Zoom and Zoom back in again because of the whole 40 minutes personal account, which I made the mistake of not using GA's Zoom account. But actually, I need to keep things separate anyway. So yeah, keep going. And what I'll do is we'll just log in back and log back in again. So I'll just close down Zoom, and if we'll just jump back in again.